Hello everyone. I'll discuss today on instruments of human rights and two most important covenants, that is International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and another one is International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. So we see that the human rights provision can be divided into two broad categories: universal or international human rights and national human rights provisions. We will take first international or universal human rights, and these human rights are those human rights which are available either to a nation or to a person at international level, either under international law or with consent, agreement, or between two or more under any treaty. International or universal human rights may further be categorized under two groups, which are human rights under International Bill of Human Rights and human rights under otherwise authority of UNO, that is United Nations organizations or different nations. So let's consider first what is International Bill of Human Rights. International Bill of Human Rights was stressed upon at the time of First and Second World War in the world. During that period, several nations considered the need of International Bill of Human Rights. So here I begin. The International Bill of Human Rights consists of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Covenant of Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, and International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and its optional protocol. Human rights had already found expression in the Covenant of the League of Nations. At 1945 San Francisco Conference held to draft the Charter of United Nations, a proposal to embody a declaration on the essential right of man was put forward but was not examined because it required more detailed consideration than was possible at that time. The Charter clearly speaks of the promotion and encouragement of respect for human rights and for fundamental freedoms for all without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion. The idea of promulgating an international Bill of Rights that was considered by many as basically implicit in the Charter. The Preparatory Commission of the United Nations, which met immediately after the closing session of the San Francisco Conference, recommended that the Economic and Social Council should, at its first session, establish a commission for the promotion of human rights as envisaged in Article 68 of the Charter. And in keeping with the Council established the Human Rights Commission early in 1946 at the first part of its very first session held in London in January 1946. The General Assembly considered a draft declaration of fundamental human rights and freedoms and transmitted it to the Economic and Social Council for reference to the Commission on Human Rights in its preparation of an International Bill of Rights. And the Commission, at its first session early in 1947, authorized each officer to formulate what it termed a preliminary draft International Bill of Human Rights. Later, the work was taken over by a formal drafting committee consisting of members of the Commission from 8 states selected with the regards for geographical distribution. Moving on to Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted and proclaimed by General Assembly of the United Nations on 10 December 1948 as a common standard of achievement for all peoples and all nations, to the end that every individual and every organ of society, keeping this declaration constantly in mind, shall strive by teaching and education to promote respect for these rights and freedoms, and by progressive measures, national and international, to secure their universal and effective recognition and observance. both among the people of member states themselves and among the peoples of territories under their jurisdiction. So 48 states voted in favor of the declaration, none against, with 8 abstentions. The adoption of the declaration was a remarkable achievement, a step forward in the great evolutionary process. It was the first occasion on which the organized community of nations had made a declaration of human rights and fundamental freedom. The document was backed by the authority of a body of opinion of the United Nations as a whole, and millions of people, men, women, children, all over the world would turn to it for help, guidance, and inspiration. The declaration consists of a preamble and 30 articles setting forth the human rights and fundamental freedom to which all men and women everywhere in the world are entitled without any discrimination. Article 1, which lays down the philosophy upon which the declaration is based, reads that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with rights and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. An article thus defined the basic assumption of the Declaration that the right of liberty and equality is man's birthright and cannot be alienated, and that because man is a rational and moral being, he is different from other creatures on earth and therefore entitled to certain rights and freedoms which other creatures do not enjoy. Article 2, which sets out the basic principle of equality and non-discrimination as regards to the enjoyment of human rights and fundamental freedom, forbids the distinctions of any kind such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political and other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth or other status. Then Article 3, the first cornerstone of the Declaration, proclaims the right to life, liberty and security of a person, a right essential to the enjoyment of all other rights. And this article introduces Article 4 to 21, in which other civil and political rights are set out, including freedom from slavery and servitude, freedom from torture and cruel, inhuman and degrading treatment and punishment, the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law, right to an effective judicial remedy, freedom from arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile, the right to a free or fair trial and public right to a fair trial and public hearing by independent and impartial tribunal, the right to be presumed innocent until proved guilty, freedom from arbitrary interference with privacy, family, home, or correspondence, freedom of movement and residence, right of asylum, the right to own property, freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, freedom of opinion and expression, right to peaceful assembly and association, right to take part in the government of one's country, and to equal access to public service in one's country. Article 22, the second cornerstone of the Declaration, introduces 23 to 27, in which economic, social, and cultural rights, the rights to which everyone is entitled as a member of the society, are set out. The article characterizes these rights as indispensable for human dignity and free development of personality, and indicates that they are to be realized through national effort and international cooperation, the extent of which depends upon the resources of each state. The economic, social, and cultural rights recognized in Article 22 to 27 includes the right to social security, right to work, right to equal pay for equal work, right to rest and leisure, right to a standard of living adequate for health and well-being, right to education, right to participate in the cultural life of the community. And the concluding articles 28 to 30, recognize that everyone is entitled to a social and international order in which the human rights and fundamental freedoms set forth in the Declaration may be fully realized, and also stress that duties and responsibilities which each individual owes to his community must be performed. Article 29 states that in the exercise of his rights and freedom, everyone shall be subject only to such limitations as are determined by law solely for the purpose of securing the recognition and respect for the rights and freedoms of others and of meeting the first requirement of morality, public order, or the general welfare in a democratic society, and adds that in no case may human rights and fundamental freedoms be exercised contrary to the purposes and principles of the United Nations. Article 30 warns that no state, group, or person may claim any right under the Declaration to engage in any activity or to perform any act aimed at the destruction of any rights and freedoms set forth in the Declaration. Moving on to next, I will discuss the significance and impact of the Declaration. Conceived as the common standard of achievement for all people and all nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights has become just that, a yardstick by which to measure the degree of respect for all and compliance with international human rights standards. Since 1948, it has been, and rightly continues to be, the most important and far-reaching of all United Nations declarations, and a fundamental source of inspiration for national and international effort to promote and protect human rights and fundamental freedom. It has set the direction for all the subsequent work in the field of human rights and has provided a basic philosophy for many legally binding international instruments designed to protect the rights and freedom which it proclaims. Then, in the Proclamation of Tehran, which was adopted by the International Conference on Human Rights held in Iran in 1968, the conference agreed that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states a common understanding of the people of the world concerning the inalienable and inviolable right of all members of the human family and constitutes. The conference affirmed its faith in the principles set forth in the Declaration and urged all people and government to dedicate themselves to those principles and to redouble their effort to provide for all human beings a life consonant with freedom and dignity and conducive to physical, material, social, and spiritual welfare. And in recent years, there has been a growing tendency for United Nations organs in preparing international instruments in the field of human rights to refer not only to the Universal Declaration but also to other parts of the International Bill of Human Rights. And this was the case, for example, in the Declaration on the Protection of Women and Children in Emergency and Armed Conflict, proclaimed in 1974, the Declaration on the Use of Scientific and Technological Progress in the Interest of Peace and for the Benefit of Mankind, which was proclaimed in 1975, and the Declaration of the Elimination of All Forms of Intolerance and of Discrimination based on Religion of Belief, proclaimed in 1981. Then we will have a look at this International Covenant on Human Rights. Preamble of the International Covenant is very important, and the preamble and Article 1, 3, and 5 of two covenants are almost identical. The preamble of each covenant recalls the obligation of states under the United Nations Charter to provide human rights, reminds the individuals of his responsibility to strive for the promotion and observance of those rights, and recognizes that in accordance with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the ideal of free human beings enjoying civil and political freedom and freedom from fear and want can only be achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his civil and political rights as well as his economic, social, and cultural rights. Article 1 of each covenant states that the right to self determination is universal and calls upon the states to promote the realization and respect for that right. Both covenants state that all people have the right of self-determination and add that by virtue of that right they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social and cultural development. Article 3 in both cases reaffirm the equal right of man and woman and enjoyment of all human rights and enjoin state to make that principles a reality. Article 5 in both cases provides safeguard against the destruction or undue limitation of any human rights or freedom, especially the fundamental freedom, as against misinterpretation of any provision of the covenant as a restriction to a greater extent that provided in the covenant also prevents state from limiting rights already enjoyed within their territories and under certain grounds that such rights are not recognized or recognized to a lesser extent in the covenant. Then we see Article 6 to 15 of the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights recognize the right to work. Accordingly, the state parties to the present covenant recognize the right to work, which includes the right of everyone to the opportunity to gain his living by work which he freely chooses or accepts and will take appropriate steps to safeguard this right. The steps to be taken by state party to the present covenant to achieve the full realization of this right shall include technical and vocational guidance and training programs, policies and techniques to achieve steady economic, social and cultural development and full and productive employment under conditions safeguarding fundamental political, economic freedom of the individual. Article 7 recognizes the enjoyment of just and favorable condition of work, and state parties to the present covenant recognize the right of everyone to the enjoyment of just and favorable condition of work, which ensure in particular the remuneration, which provides all workers at a minimum with fair wages and equal remuneration for work of equal value without distinction of any kind, in particular women being guaranteed conditions of work not inferior to those enjoyed by men, with equal pay for equal work, a decent standard for themselves and their families in accordance with the provision of the present covenant, safe and healthy working conditions, equal opportunity for everyone to be promoted in his employment to an appropriate higher level subject to considerations other than those of seniority and competence, raised leisure and reasonable limitation of working hours and periodic holidays with pay as well as remuneration for public holidays. Then Article 8 mentions about forming and joining trade unions and certain rights regarding forming of trade union and joining of trade unions. The state parties to the present covenant undertake to ensure the right of everyone to form trade unions and join the trade unions of his choice, subject only to the rules of the organization concerned for the promotion and protection of his economic and social interest. No restrictions may be placed on the exercise of this right other than those prescribed by law and which is necessary in a democratic society in the interest of national security or public order or for the protection of rights and freedoms or other. Then right of trade unions to establish a national federation or confederations and right of the latter to form or join international trade union organizations. It also includes the right of trade unions to function freely, subject to no limitations other than those prescribed by law and which are necessary in a democratic society in the interest of national security or public order or for the protection of the rights and freedom of others. Then it includes the right to strike, provided that it is exercised in conformity with the laws of the particular country. Also, this article shall not prevent the imposition of lawful restrictions on the exercise of these rights by member state or members of the armed forces or of the police or of the administration of the state. Then Article 9 provides right to social security. The state parties to the present covenant recognize the right of everyone to social security, including social insurance. Article 10 of the state parties to the present covenant recognize that the widest possible protection and assistance should be accorded to the family, which is the natural and fundamental ground unit of the society, particularly for its establishment and while it is responsible for the care and education of the dependent children. Marriage must be entered into the free consent of the intending spouses. Social protection should be accorded to mothers for a reasonable period before and after childbirth. During such period, working mothers should be accorded paid leave and leave with adequate social security benefits. Special measures for protection and assistance should be taken on behalf of all children and young persons without any discrimination for reasons of parentage and other conditions. Children and young persons shouldn't be protected from economic and social exploitation. Their employment in work harmful to their morals or health or likely to hamper their normal development should be punishable by law. States should also set age limit below which the paid employment of child labor should be prohibited and punishable by law. Moving on to Article 11, which recognizes to an adequate standard of living. The state parties to the present covenant recognize the right of everyone to an adequate standard of living for himself and his family, including adequate food, clothing, and housing, and to the continuous improvement of living conditions. The state parties will take appropriate steps to ensure the realization of this right, recognizing to this effect the essential importance of international cooperation based on free consent. The state parties to the present covenant recognizing the fundamental rights of everyone to be free from hunger shall undertake individually and through international cooperation measures including specific programs which are needed to improve methods of production, conservation and distribution of food by making full use of technical and scientific knowledge, by disseminating knowledge of the principles of nutrition and by developing or reforming agrarian systems in such a way as to achieve the most efficient development and utilization of natural resources. And taking into account the problems of both food importing and food exporting countries to ensure an equitable distribution of world food supplies in relation to need. Moving on to next article, which mentions about the enjoyment of highest attainable standard of physical and mental health. So the state parties of the present covenant recognize the right of everyone to the enjoyment of highest attainable standard of physical health and mental health, and the steps to be taken by the state parties to the present covenant to achieve the full realization of this right shall include those necessary for the provision of the reduction of stillbirth rate and of infant mortality rate and for the healthy development of the child and also for the improvement of all aspects of environmental and industrial hygiene for the prevention and treatment and control of epidemic, endemic, occupational and other diseases and also for the creation of conditions which would assure all medical services and medical attention in the event of sickness. Uh, Next article recognize the right to education. The state parties of the present covenant recognize the right to education for everyone. They agree that education shall be directed to the full development of human personality and the sense of its dignity and shall strengthen the respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. They further agree that education shall enable any persons to participate effectively in a free society, promote understanding, tolerance, and friendship among all nations and all racial, ethnic, or religious groups, and further the activities of the United Nations for the maintenance of peace. Then the state parties of the present covenant recognize that with a view to achieving the full realization of this right, primary education shall be compulsory and available free to all. On the other hand, secondary education in its various forms, including technical and vocational secondary education, shall be made generally available and accessible to all by every appropriate means and in particular by the progressive introduction of free education. Moreover, the higher education shall be made equally accessible to all on the basis of capacity by every appropriate means and in particular by the progressive introduction of free education. Fundamental education shall be encouraged and intensified as far as possible for those persons who haven't received or completed the whole period of their primary education. The development of a system of schools at all shall be actively pursued, an adequate fellowship system shall be established, and the material conditions of teaching staff shall be continuously improved. The state parties to the present covenant undertake to have respect for the liberty of parents and, when applicable, legal guardians to choose for their children schools other than those established by the public authorities which conforms to such minimum educational standards as may be laid down or approved by the state to ensure the religious and moral education of their children in conformity with their own conviction. And no part of this article shall be contrary so as to interfere with the liberty of individuals and bodies to establish and direct educational institutions, subject always to the observance of the principles set forth in paragraph 1 of the article and to the requirement that the education given in such institution shall conform to such minimum standards as may be laid down by the state. On the other hand, Article 15 mentions about the right to take part in cultural life. The state parties of the present covenant recognize the right of everyone to take part in cultural life, to enjoy the benefits of scientific progress and its applications, to benefit from the protection of the moral and material interest resulting from any scientific, literary, or artistic production of which he is the author. The steps to be taken by state parties to the present covenant to achieve the full realization of this right shall include those necessary for the conservation, development, and the diffusion of science and culture. The state parties to the present covenant undertake to respect the freedom indispensable for scientific research and creative activity. The state parties to the present covenant recognize the benefits to be derived from the encouragement and development of international contacts and cooperation in the scientific and cultural field. So this is all for today. In the next part, I'll discuss about Article 16 to 31 of the covenant. So this is all for today. So any difficulties arise on your part, you drop me a message, and that will be addressed in the live class. Thank you so much.